emergency. Sam Vaknins released another video and it hit me like a truck with T, not with D. I'm not halfway through. It's insane again. It's one of his musing videos. I shared it on my community section. We have to introduce a new term: atomization of people. It means isolation. It means being lone and individualistic. It is connected to identity politics and identity thinking and individualism. Atomization. You can be atomized in a city. You can be atomized in a rural area. You can be atomized everywhere, because it means, it is disconnected from reality. The new video, the new thinking concepts are connected to the framework of the idea of fantastic spaces with manipulated symbols. So we have a fantastic space, and in the fantastic spaces there are symbols that are manipulated. So it means that human beings project a space of fantasy around them, and in this fantasy space they interact with symbols. Symbols are money, goods, anything you have a cathexis into. Cathexis means emotional investment. And for narcissists and psychopaths and other grandiose people that are not empathetic, whatever, don't quote me on this. Human beings are symbols as well. They are not, they have no object and introject constancy. They have no equal real existence, the same way you have. For them, they are symbols for different reasons. I don't want to get into the details. So the concept of fantastic spaces and symbols that are manipulatable. It's, in this video, Sam Vaknins claims there is a fight between fantasy and reality happening, and fantasy is winning. We have to understand that fantasy per se is not bad or good. Same way reality per se is not bad or good. What I can pinpoint and nail is reality is the place where our physical body is created and living. Sam Vaknins claims that it is first nature of human beings to tend to prefer fantasy to reality. What I connect with is the picture of a human being in nature, in wild, in a prehistoric setting, finding a cave and then designing the cave and selecting people to live within the cave, people who align with the fantasy. So everything is a fantasy that connects people. Even the concept of society or a state or a group, a state or a group or a family, it all is a concept and a fantasy. As counterintuitive and alien this might sound at first, but we are so used to use these words and concepts that we automatically implied or fell under this actually delusion that these are real. I can give you I can give you a reference to that. So when we look at the how moral systems, moral ideas, virtues, these are concepts, how they evolved over time, we see that they are also fantasies. So in the naive state of a human being, there is not an external observer like God or anything like that. There's no external observer. And the human being is just interacting in an infinite number of infinitely different situations, and each different situation requires a different custom-tailored concept or idea or spontaneous improvised action to react to it. And to simplify it, of course, we human beings compare situations. So we say, all right, I have hunted this animal already 20 times. I will use the same strategy, the same movements, the same weapon to get to my goal again. So we simplify it and we compare the same situations, even though they are not the same situations. They're completely different. And we also have to adapt the better we are able to not do the same again, but to a better, adapted, intelligent, new, custom tailored solution, the more successful we are. So, also, by the way, this is a key concept to understand perception. Perception, just as in the world today we have a battle between fantasy and reality, in our perception we have a battle between complexity and simplification. So if we look at the world, the way our sensual input is, we would see nothing, but we would be overwhelmed with an unfiltered information of colors and light hitting our retina, and we would not be able to filter out shapes and how's it called, relevant objects to react to. So we would cross the street and not be able to see the relevant car coming from the left, and we would not be able to react to it. But when we look too simplified, the world would look very boring. So we would only see the sidelines of the street and the car, but we would maybe miss a small uneven point on the ground and then stumble over it, or something like that. So we need to find the right mixture. Our brain has to mix up the right mixture of complexity and simplification. Our brain reduces, it takes away unnecessary, it filters out information, but it also enhances the contrast and the lines, straight lines and shapes, in order to give us a more relevant picture than reality, even, so that we see the stone that we could stumble over in a hyper-realistic way, even more realistic than it is in reality. So we are pinpointed, we are attracted to it, so we react the right way. So this new video, this new concept, it baffled me. The concept that human beings prefer fantasy, it also reminds very much of Matrix and the blue and the red pill of Morpheus, the god of sleep that can wake you up when you take the pill that will put you into reality. And Sam Vaknins claims all human beings, 99%, will prefer a fantasy, a comfortable fantasy, instead of being confronted with reality. And it's also about the topic of this individual idea of the individual, of identity, thinking, of this introverted, self analyzing tendency, which includes looking at oneself with therapeutic intentions, pathologizing people around you and you, including yourself, and looking for self improvement and self optimization, self work, endless circles of over self reflecting, self improving, and if you look at yourself, you can't look at others. So this is like an infection. Let's say we are infected with individual self-centered thinking, and if assuming it is right that we prefer fantasy and that we are individualistic, it means we look at us very much. We are very self-centered, self-improvement, self-care, wellness, and so on, which leads to atomization, to isolation from everybody else. We need the privacy to do this. And also, it, yeah, so we prefer fantasy and we are self centered. This means that we look for a space where our fantasy can exist. And we only allow people into this space that support and not attack our fantasy. And this implies that we are only moving in echo chambers. It means we only look for the company of people who are aligned to our fantasies, that cater to our self image. The self image, again, comes from the individual thinking. So we have moved over time from necessary groups. It was a necessary group to be in a family because this is where life is created and taken care of and raised. And there were necessary groups to hunt together, a necessary group to defend against bears and external threats, a necessary group to be together. It was not about, do you want to be with them? Do you like to be with them? You have problems there? No, you don't think about this. You don't think about yourself. You, to survive, you go with that group or you die. Okay? And because we have this individualism, we are infected with it. We cannot go back to a real communal lifestyle, to having a real connection with everybody, to love our neighbor really the way we would love ourselves, because we are thinking too individual and we find a hair in every soup. Yeah, just it's too much. It's too much. This video is too much. He claims many interesting things, and as much as I criticize Sam Vaknin at times, he's just a human being. He makes mistakes. He has all the human flaws that any human can have. But he is. I'm impressed by his intellectual prowess and the provocative ideas he is sharing. So I'm not saying that what he says is all right and I'm just promoting him because I'm a fanboy and I hide behind his accomplishments or whatever. But I find it transformative because of its because it's very provocative. It's just interesting. And therefore I'm just sharing this, and I really want your ideas and reactions if you want to talk about this, right? I'm just, yeah. I'll now finish this video of him and check it out. It's so it's really crazy to think about these concepts of the, you know, are human beings really, do we really prefer fantasy? Have we become so self-centered and so fantasy dependent, addicted to fantasy, that we can't go back to real communal lifestyles? Can we only move within echo chambers? And what can we do to fight this trend? But if we fight the trend, we are in a rebellion of a all pervasive development. If this is true, what he says, this is happening everywhere around us. And if we are in rebellion against it, we are fighting something that we can't stop. So, how do we adapt, prepare, strategize, fit in, or, how do we deal with this development if it's true? That we are having a trend of atomization, isolation, destruction of all, you know, um, conceptual units like family and other social concepts like states, whatever. Yeah, I really can't grasp it yet, this idea. And yeah, how do we react to it? How do we prepare for that?